fucking Facebook.
Welcome to the Stogie Geek Show, episode 97. This episode is sponsored by Mr. J's Havana Smoke Shop, located here in Rhode Island, that have an outstanding selection of premium handmade cigars. And by the Havana Cigar Club. It's a great place to enjoy a drink and a cigar. Stogie Geeks listeners can find a $5 off coupon on our website by clicking the HCC logo, and by Debonair Cigars. Visit stogiegeeks.com/debonair for a list of retailers who carry Debonair cigars. Buy some today and get a little more debonair. And by Ocean State Cigars. Try the J. Grotto series cigar, including the Connecticut Shade Silk and limited edition J. Grotto Reserva lines. Visit them on the web at oceanstatecigars.com for a full list of retailers near you. Welcome, everyone, to this very special edition of the Stogie Geek Show. Well, of course, every week is special.
I just took the words right. What's so special?
We're special. I always say it's special.
Yeah,
You're special.
It's special. I'm special in a lot of ways. Like the short bus kind of special.
Oh, man. We haven't even started this show yet. See what happens when I'm back? I just bring up the
It's
West.
good to have you back. Stogie Santa's in the house. Welcome back, Stogie Santa.
Good evening, everybody.
Mr. Mark Jr. is here in the studio as well,
Sure am.
looking at pictures of sheep.
Goats.
Goats.
That's
Sorry.
with goat, sheep, man, woman.
That, you know, whatever floats your boat.
Yeah, you know.
On the lines via Skype, we got Mr. Will Cooper.
Greetings, everybody.
Wow.
Will, why don't you tell us what we're smoking tonight?
Okay. This is, I talked about this cigar a couple weeks ago. I gave it one of my rare Oasis ratings. And I loved it so much, I wanted to see if my colleagues and friends up in Rhode Island would think I'm crazy or not, how good this cigar was. But it is the Casada 40th Anniversary Corona Classica. So I know a lot of folks have seen the 40th Anniversary cigars out there.
Look at that.
This ain't it. This is a different one. It's a lighter color wrapper. I don't know if you guys could show the camera, but it's much lighter than the normal 40th Anniversary. It's an undisclosed blend, and the facts about this cigar is a 6.5 by 46 Corona, and it was made much more limited than the rest of the 40th Anniversary series. It's pretty much going to shops that are doing Casada family cigar events, and so, you know, as far as that goes, the other thing is it was blended actually by Manuel Casada himself. It was his daughters who blended the 40th Anniversary line, but Manuel actually blended this himself. I really love this cigar, and I'm curious to see what folks on the other end think of this tonight.
Well, for what I understand, Coop, there's only 15 shops throughout the states that have this.
Yes.
And that's it. And it's supposed to be re-released in 50-count boxes to that 15 stores afterwards?
Yes. So right now, the only way you'll find them is in event 5-packs.
Right, exactly. Yep.
Yep. So I managed to snag. I snagged one. I had a couple weeks ago, and then I managed to snag a 5-pack this time.
Well,
So-
and what's the blend?
We don't know.
Can't you read?
Completely.
What's it say? What's it say in your show notes?
But our listeners can't see our show notes.
It's an
So it doesn't matter what they
blend.
think. That's what we know. You're supposed to explain that to him.
You can now listen to Stogie Geeks view through osmosis.
Yes.
I got
We're just going to stay silent.
It's a
and we're gonna
revolutionary.
think the whole show.
It's a
Yeah.
revolutionary
Read my mind.
technology.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Now I got a question for Stogie Santa.
Sure.
Does this have any resemblance to the España wrapper?
Yes.
Visually, yes.
Visually, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, oh,
I
absolutely.
Why are
know-
you just
I know
asking
visually
him?
it did, but taste-wise, I got a very different cigar.
Oh, that's not
Yo,
even the same
What the hell are
realm.
we, Chop? We don't know what
We
España.
don't know those,
I don't know
right,
what an
yeah.
España
I've
looks
never
like.
had those.
I'm glad he asked.
Babies
Stogie
on
Santa.
the bicycle.
We're only 5 minutes into the show.
Oh, God.
Well, mine is plugged. Could you send me another box? I need a.
I told you not to touch the cigar
I
when
did.
they came.
I
You should have
had
sent
to.
it to me.
Can you send me a whole other box though? That would be fabulous. Thank you.
Oh, Okay, let's get serious.
This
here.
is pretty good. I don't know so far.
what just initial thoughts from the crew right now?
I tell you what, the first that comes out of my mind is balance. I got a little bit. Anyone get that like that little woody, oaky flavor?
Definitely.
And then I got that cereal note. No,
I like your cereal description.
you know, it's so subtle.
Yeah, yeah. What? What is
It's
going
gonna
on?
be. Is it a full moon tonight or what? But right now, totally different from the España that we know and love prior to this coupe.
Oh,
Not even on the
it
same
was,
planet.
I don't want to say it. That's a very good cigar. This is, like I said, this is completely different.
No doubt about it. What was your first assessment when you first got into this? Did you get that woody note?
I got the woody note, but then I got some sweetness kind of early on. The sweetness will pop out pretty early.
Got a little bit, but did you get talking about that like cereal type flavor?
You know what? Now that you're saying it, that's something I can put my finger on, saying it's like a cereal grainy flavor.
Right. Okay. Why don't we introduce our guest before he falls asleep?
Yeah.
Tom Person from Commonwealth Cedar Spills. Welcome to the show, Tom.
Hey, thank you guys. Thanks very much for having me. I'm guessing you guys never have any low morale or self-esteem issues on the show.
No.
No.
We don't have that problem.
We have nothing.
You wouldn't last long.
We're pretty full of ourselves, actually.
No.
So, Tom, I wanted to, I'm sure a lot of our listeners have heard of the Cedar Spill before, but I want to get into the thick of it and then get into more about your company as well.
Yeah.
But tell us about what a Cedar Spill is, and I think more importantly, I want to know the history behind it and where it comes from.
Yeah, no problem at all. Well, a Cedar Spill, plain and simply, there's two parts, obviously, in the word cedar and the word spill. Cedar is the wood type. To be more specific, Spanish cedar in parlance today. Very close cousin to mahogany. Not exactly the same, but kissing cousins. And when you start talking to folks in the lumber industry and woodworking, they're almost one and the same, but you need to be a little particular about that. So that's the first part, cedar. Spill actually goes back to, I want to say, a Germanic wordplay in meaning split of wood. A spill, a split. Spill comes from a Germanic word, split, meaning to split a piece of wood, and the spill or the split of wood, the use was just to simply take a piece of wood, like I've got a little piece of Spanish cedar here, was to take that wood, put it in the fire in point A, and move the fire to point B. So let's go back about 300-400 years or more. We take a split of wood, any wood, and we take the fire from we take the fire from the stove and we want to move it over to a candle, or we want to take the candle and we want to put it out and move it into the stove, or from the campfire to you get the idea. It's simply a method or a manner of moving fire from point A to point B. That's what spill is all about. And in doing my research, when I got into this, I think the business is going into its third year. I started getting into cigars again about 5 years ago, and we can get into that more later. And looking it up, again, Germanic in origin, I think what happened from what I've been able to research and ask around a bit online, the folks in Europe started doing business with the Caribbean and the more Spanish parts of the world, and somewhere along the lines that word split, in whatever reference or language, maybe it was German, maybe it was Spanish, maybe it was Portuguese, once they got down to the Caribbean, Cuba, South America, Central America, split became spill in the common parlance of everyday usage. And somewhere along the line, someone got the idea to use this common wood, which again is mahogany for the most part, Spanish cedar, that's very prevalent in the area or geography of the world from about, take it about Key West, Florida, part of Mexico, if you were to cut across the globe, down to about Rio, São Paulo, Brazil. So that's kind of where the mahogany trees grow. And somewhere along the line, someone got it in their heads like, hey, we have all this wood. We've been using it as shavings to pack up cigars. We've been using it to wrap cigars in or separate them in boxes. and someone got the idea to light something, and someone else looked at it and said, hey, that's probably a good way to light a cigar, because one of the best benefits and why this kind of wood is great to line your humidor, or in our case with a Cedar Spill, it has very low water and oil or resin content. So when you light it, you're not transferring a deep, harsh, oily resin into your tobacco, whether it's pipe tobacco or in more general common use cigars.
So, Tom, why did you decide to make a Cedar Spill? I mean, we were using regular lighters, and was there something in the process that you said this experience can be better, or like what was the reason?
Yeah, part of that. A little background on me to kind of answer your question. Spent about 10 or 12 years in the software industry, had a great time, put a little money away, and decided at some point I was going to take a year off. After about a month into my year off, I got really bored and wanted something else to do. And around that same time, someone gave me a cigar, and I decided, hey, I like this. I'm going to get back into them as I was in college. I'm 45 now. So about 5 years ago, someone gave me a cigar, and I started reading up. And I think that's something we all do, whether it's whiskey, wine, cigars, tobacco, whatever it is. You start reading up in the history. And I heard about and read about these things called Cedar Spills, but I couldn't find anywhere to buy them. And it sounded really interesting, just because it kind of forces you to slow down, take your time, roast and toast the tobacco to get it up and going. And when I took that cigar, I live here in Louisville, Kentucky, and that's where we're headquartered. I was at either the Kentucky Oaks or the Kentucky Derby about 5 years ago, and I went to light my cigar, and I was outside. It wasn't really windy, but I had a nice piece of wood like this that I actually got out of a cigar maker's box, and I took my lighter to it, and I went to light it, and I held my cigar up, and I'm rolling it, and I light it, and it works pretty well. It took me a little while to light it, but it worked. The cigar was nice and toasty, and I went and I took that piece of wood and I shook it, and this black piece of char and charcoal fell on my nice white shirt, and I thought, well, wait a minute, there's something here. Maybe there's got to be a better way, and that perhaps was my epiphany. And again, in looking around
Tom,
to try
so
and buy them online, they weren't there.
Is that the sole reason why you wouldn't use the cedar dividers that come in many of the cigar boxes that we know and love, or is that just one reason why you wouldn't want to use those?
Well, there's a couple reasons. One, as you mentioned in passing there, they're getting harder and harder to find. Not every cigar box puts those in there for generally cost reasons. It's not that expensive, but it is another cost that they can cut back on. It's another step in the manufacturing and box production process to have to put it in there, and it's just easier for them to use either a parchment paper or wax paper or something in there, or just cellophane. But the real reason I got into it is, again, I did that and I was like, wait a minute, that's not a good thing, and if that's happening to me, it might be happening to other people, and I just needed something else to do, and I looked into it and said, hey, there might be an opportunity here.
Now, you say, Tom, the toasty flavor, and I think I've heard you in other interviews say, the kind of torch and scorch method. Mm-hmm. Is there a flavor difference between, lighting your cigar with a regular lighter versus lighting it with a soft flame versus lighting it with a spill or piece of wood? Like, what's the flavor experience?
Yeah, there can be. If we go from hottest to coolest when it comes to flame, there's nothing wrong with any of those methods to light your cigar, as long as you take your time and you keep some distance between the flame and the cigar foot. I always say that keep at least the diameter of the cigar away from the tip of the flame. When you're dealing with a blowtorch or a torch lighter, and they've got single flames, double, triple, quadruples, and so on, they're getting really hot. They can range anywhere from, I think, about 1,200 degrees up to 1,600 degrees. They're really better suited to making creme brulee in a dessert kitchen than to use on your cigar. Butane is obviously the way you want to go, as opposed to using a traditional lighter fluid lighter. Butane does burn fairly clean. For me, the taste difference, and I've heard it enough from folks who are using spills and matches, that hot a flame from a blowtorch lighter, when put so close to the foot of the cigar, you're not toasting it, you're generally making charcoal, you're making carbon. Tobacco, if you didn't know, starts to combust at about 550 to 600 degrees Fahrenheit. That's the ideal temperature you want to go. Anything more than that, you're just, hastening the combustion and allowing the oil and the water to actually just go, right to evaporation and start to create char or carbon. And I think for me, for me, I'll just speak for myself. when I hear folks talk about a cigar and how it changes dramatically from the foot into about the first inch and a half, I'm like a little hesitant about that particular comment on the cigar, because chances are when you use that blowtorch and you put it right up to the foot of your cigar, you're introducing charcoal and you're breathing that in while puffing in and out into the binder and into the filler. So you're going to have to get rid of that as you smoke, and I think that's going to cause a dramatic change in flavor. Regardless of which method you use, simply take your time, transfer the heat from the flame to the cigar, do not apply it. And I've been in some of the nicest clubs in this country, some of the nicest lounges and the most, smallest little local tobacco shops, and I constantly see people taking that flame and putting it right up to the base of the foot, almost where it's hitting the lighter, simply to accelerate, to quicken the process, which to me kind of goes against the very reason I want a cigar. I want to take a time out and I want to relax. So, lighters make the lighters, torch lighters make the hottest flame. Matches are great, except they tend to burn a little hotter, and they have all the chemical on the match head. I mean, there's nitrates, potassium, there's even glass particles from the scratch pad. So when you strike a match, let that chemical head burn off, get to the actual wood, and then light your cigar, and then you have a much softer flame. And then, of course, with the Cedar Spill, you're getting back into the tradition. This is what we used to use to move fire from point A to point B, as well as light things like cigars or pipes, before we invented matches and chemicals and lighters and such. So I think it's just it's a better way to let the artisan cigar makers' cigar flavor come through from the first foot to the finish.
So, Tom, what's unique about your spills? I noticed that particularly the shape is very unique.
Yeah, absolutely. Our spill is it's almost a foot long, not quite. It's about 11 inches long, and it's got a nice design to it. You can look at them at, well, we have two websites. There's cedarspills.com. That's kind of our education marketing site, so folks can read up a little bit about the history we've talked about here. And then shop.cedarspills.com, where they can purchase spills and other things. But when I got into this, I said, obviously, I took an insert from a box, I broke off a piece, and I pulled the strip out, and I got, a bit of an uneven tear, because it's wood. It's never going to tear perfectly straight unless you cut it with another device. And said, hey, I can make something better. So my spill, again, maybe 11 inches long, a little square handle on one end, and then the round end has circular. That's where you want to light it. And we actually went so far as to put a little flame icon there on the tip, because we actually had people that would grab a spill around the center and light it in the center. And I'm like, okay, I know I'm in Kentucky, which I didn't grow up in, and I love the Commonwealth, but for safety's sake, let's just guide people down the path. So we have a little flame icon there. They light it. It's pardon me here. I want to say tethered, but that's not the right word. The design, it simply gets a little wider as you go toward the handle, and by lighting that spill with any flame source, a candle, you light off your stove, I suppose you had an open flame there, a torch lighter, anything, it's tapered so that when you light it and it grows, it gives you 30 seconds, maybe even more depending on the angle, the down angle you hold it at, to light your cigar. The shape is, when I got into this, I said, the only way this is going to take off as a business is if I can customize it. It's got a custom, nice look to it, but it also allows me to, as you can see here, this is our nude cigar spill. Putting logos on it and putting words on it is going to make it, just a better experience. Cigars for Warriors is another charity that our company supports, and we send a lot of spills to them to send out to our soldiers deployed overseas.
Tom,
so
is that
putting foreign languages, text, logos on it,
is that laser?
It's a differentiator.
Is that laser etching?
We use a combination of processes to cut, punch, shape, and put everything on here. Don't talk about it a whole lot, but we're basically just engraving it on there. We are burning the image in there, but we have to use a couple of different methods to get the finished look that we want, and that took a bit of trial and error. So we're happy about it. It comes together. But, I'm using a lot of the common woodworking tools anybody might have in their garage, maybe a step up in a cabinet maker, but we're using them in an unusual or different process maybe. So we can manufacture, we can manufacture thousands of them a day, not quite 10,000, but thousands of them a day. And when we've done special projects for some cigar makers or lounges, restaurants, all sorts of, I never would have thought would want a Cedar Spill, but they have cigars. We can ramp up our production really quickly and get them out there.
So, Tom, it sounds like a silly question, but
Yeah.
so what do you light your spill with? Because obviously you need fire from somewhere, right? Does it matter
absolutely.
what you light your spill with, or?
It doesn't. It really doesn't matter any flame source, because you're going to, you're going to take this piece of Spanish cedar and you're going to basically have it combust, hold the flame, and go. When I'm in a cigar lounge, everybody around me's got a lighter, so I really have to carry a lighter with me. A lot of I have a private cigar club here in Louisville, Kentucky, because our smoking laws are horrible. We have candles often set out there, but again, any flame source you can use. I've never actually seen anybody use another cigar or a pipe to light a spill, simply because the temperature is not quite there. But any flame source you want. And that's, I think part of using a cedar spill is why I like cigars. It forces me to slow down, take a time out. And even when I get into a cigar now, a couple of cigar makers I've met have really impressed upon me. Even before I cut my cigar, I toast the foot. I just get it a little brown. I don't turn it into a black charcoal. I just toast it. And that really allows the oils and the water and the tobacco to start to get up to temperature and to travel as I hold it, the foot down, into the cigar. So I like to, toast the foot of my cigar, then cut it, and then take the spill and light it. But yeah, any flame source can work.
It's interesting. We heard another one of our guests say that too, that they toast before they cut it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's,
can I ask, was it a cigar maker?
Yep.
yes, it was.
Was it Enrique?
Yep.
Yep.
Yep. He first Enrique at 1502 is a great guy. His 1502 Ruby is one of my personal favorite. They're all great smokes. But in talking to him and talking to some of the elder statesmen, if you were, cigar makers around, because when I first came out with this was the IPCPR, I want to say 4 years ago. I think it was in Orlando. I went to the show as a guest of a cigar maker to walk around and see if anybody else was making these things, to do, kind of check out the cigar industry, the landscape, the retail space, and show off my prototype at the time to some cigar makers and get their feedback. There wasn't anybody doing it, and everybody said, if you get the price point right and you add something to it, and that was where the personalization came in, you might have something. So, roasting and toasting, it is for me something that's just part of my routine now. Holding the foot straight down even before I cut it, lighting a spill, and just allowing that foot to get lightly toasted. I can touch the cigar with a cedar spill flame and not worry about making charcoal right away. Now, if I hold it there for, more than 4 seconds, it's going to char up. But again, I want to do to my cigar what I do to bread in my toaster. Toast it, get it lightly brown. It really just allows the oils and the water, as you can imagine, heat up and go into the binder and the filler in the cigar, and it helps the taste. To me, cigars, they can change radically as I smoke them over an hour or so from the foot to the finish, but they should evolve in flavor. A dramatic change to me tells me somebody probably lit it too hot too soon.
So now, can anyone customize a spill, or?
Oh, absolutely. When we first got into this, 3 years ago now, we said, okay, what can we do to make the spills different? Logos on them, simple, intellectual. Well, I will say you can put an image on here, but you've got a size limitation, and you need to think of black and white terms when you're putting your artwork on there, because you only have about an inch by a half-inch square space on the handle to put a logo up there or a design, or on occasion, like you guys might know Delicia. She's the cigar vixen out there. She is one of our Commonwealth Cedar Spills ambassadors, and she's got her own spills that she uses and gives out and such, and we put her branded logo and name on there. But we've had some folks from as far away, I guess, as Kuwait and Dubai and Saudi Arabia call up, enter us either through our retailer over in Kuwait or online, and say, hey, we want to put something on here. And you can put absolutely anything on there. Generally, though, with text, you've got about 40 to 50 characters. You can't put too much text on there because it'd be too small and you wouldn't be able to read it, and you've only got about 5 inches of space on the spill to put something on there. But folks have been ordering them, which is awesome for us, and it seems to me that people were kind of like I was when I first got into this. You've read about them, you've heard about them, they've made mention, but no one was selling them. When I got into this, I think I found a company somewhere in Europe that sold something that looked like a popsicle stick. I mean, a really thick piece of wood, and I didn't quite get what they were going at. So I was like, all right, well, I'm going to give this thing a try. And happy to say, I think we're in 20-odd states now, not quite 30 retailers. And it's so fun, and on 4 continents, which is funny because I put my ad in for the IPCPR, a big trade show in Vegas. They have an almanac where everybody advertises, and all the retailers look through it for suppliers and vendors. And I think I put an ad in there that said, like, 3 continents in 2 years with one simple idea. And the minute I put it in, a week later, we added somebody in Stockholm, Sweden as a retailer. So I was like, oh, well, that's all right. 421 wouldn't have sounded as good as 321. So, but yeah, you can put just about anything you want in a spill, but I will say, I can't put the NFL logo on here, guys. I can't put, somebody else's intellectual property. I can't put Mickey Mouse on it. Even, people start wanting, oh, I'm going back to my college reunion. Well, okay, great. We got to get permission from the university of whatever before we put it on there, unless it's something that's very generic. So I respect intellectual property rights. My background in software, I just have a lot of respect for what other people do and the images and the brand they want to put out there, and I can't just put it in there. Now on the upside, we did have someone, probably 3 months ago. He's a huge Padron fan. I was like, oh, cool, so am I. What are you smoking? Blah, blah, blah. He's like, oh, I love it on the box. I'm like, you know what? Generally can't do that, but if you give me a week, let me reach out to the Padrones down in Florida and see what's possible. I made a couple calls. It took a couple days for them to get back to me, explain the situation, and they were like, is a one-off? Sure. They sent me an email, gave me the permission, and we made a Padron spill box. A spill box is my term. I don't make cigars, and I don't have cigar boxes, but we have spills and we have spill boxes. And we actually put the Padron on our nice Russian birch. This is the birch boxes that we put our spills in, and they give us permission. And I'm more than willing to do that for any of my customers that come to us and say, I'm a fan of Nomad cigars or Emilio or Alec Bradley. Great. Let me reach out to them. You send me an email. You've got the request. Let me see what they say. Everybody's really wary of their brand, and I respect that. So when they can do that, I totally appreciate it, and I know the customer does too.
Cool. So what are we talking price-wise, excuse me, for a box of spills?
Well,
or a bundle of spills?
they range. There's a range of prices. Our standard spill box that you're going to see in, like, if you go to some retail cigar shops around the country, is $30 for a spill box made of birch, Russian birch, and inside it, it's going to have 50 to 60. Generally, it's closer to 60 spills inside them, and there are standard spills. All they say are cedarspills.com on them, but the actual box itself is going to have the retailer, that local tobacconist logo on the box, and that's generally anywhere from, I've seen, $24.99 up to $30 retail price for that spill box, which I'm happy with. I sell my product to the local tobacconist, and I trust them in their market to know what's going to sell, what price point, and how well it's going to do. And one of the things I offer for all of our customers that go to the retailer, because yes, we do have a website where we sell similar things or more customizable boxes and spills, is a top swap program. So you could go into, let's say you're down in Florida and you go into one of Abe's shops at the Smoke-Ins, and you buy a spill box there. It's going to have his shop's logo on the top, but you come to our website at cedarspills.com, tell me where you bought it, and let's say you bought it for a gift for your dad for Father's Day, which is next month. Great. I'll send you a brand new box top with your dad's name on it or a logo on it, again, as long as it's not something that's copyrighted by someone else, and we will top swap it. We'll just send it to you free in the mail. And I think that's, it's a great incentive for my retailers, customers. They can get a spill box. I give all my retailers a big bundle of spills like this as often as they ask for it, that has their shop logo on it. And people use them in the stores. They put them out in a vase, or they just set them on the cigar table next to the guillotine and maybe a lighter. And it allows folks to just, use a spill without buying one. And if they like it, and I think they do, they buy a box, buy it for dad, buy it for mom, buy it for whoever, and we'll give you a free box top with whatever you want engraved on it. And we'll just mail it to you free of charge, which has been kind of cool. So our spill boxes at the retailers are $30. We sell some other ones online at our website in mahogany.
I'm sorry.
Walnut,
Will,
and
if you could just mute your microphone, your chair is squeaking and your typing is coming through the your microphone.
I'm muted. I was muted. Is that me? Oh, I'm not muted. I'm sorry.
Oh,
I can hear you, so that probably means you're not muted. Love
Sorry
you, Will.
about that. I thought it was.
No worries.
yeah. So the spill boxes, the retail are $30, but we sell larger ones on our website, ranging from $60 all the way up to our nude Cigar Girl spill box in mahogany, walnut, or Colonel's Red, which has got some great artwork. I think everybody's probably seen this image all over the internet if you're going into any cigar forums, cigar websites. The Nude Cigar Girl by Mike Spano, who's an artist out in New York. Again, another great example. Customer wanted that on there, and I'm like, I don't think you own the rights to that, but let me do some research and reach out to them. We came to a nice licensing agreement to put it on boxes and spills, and I think that's probably our nicest, most expensive spill box. Again, mahogany, walnut, or the shiny red maple. Retails for about $120, but you can also buy them by the bundle. We have a couple of different cigar makers that we actually sell their spills for. Clint Aaron at 262. Every time he's come out with a new cigar line, I think he's up to 4 or 5 now. Yeah, 5 with Allegiance. We have spills for him, Nomad cigars, and other guys as well. Because generally what I found when cigar guys are pretty darn loyal. I mean, I'm sure you guys being in the industry, and I know Coop, you smoke everything because it's part of what you do, but I'm sure you've got your favorites. Guys like to get the lighter, they like to get the cutter, they like to get the box, they like to get the new release, they like to get, any blend they can, meet the cigar maker at an event. Well, now you can have that other thing, the one cigar accessory you probably don't have, a Cedar Spill. And, it's just a natural extension of a brand, whether it's a cigar maker or, again, we've got some golf resorts, which I kind of thought, yeah, people smoke cigars out there, but who would use a spill on the 9th hole or the 10th hole, especially in a high wind? You wouldn't. You don't use a Cedar Spill in a high wind condition. But I had a lot of golf. It's funny. I got one golf resort down south, and then I had another one come in, because when you're at the 19th hole at the end of the game, you're sitting down having a drink, a cocktail maybe, and a cigar. You're taking the time out. A Cedar Spill just kind of, again, is bringing back that tradition.
Tom, you're doing some special projects, including, I'm going to butcher the pronunciation, cigar placards. I'm sorry, I can't read today. And Cigars for Warriors. Tell us about those.
Yeah, absolutely. Cigars for Warriors is our charity that we support in a couple of different ways. The Cedar Spill that we put out there to raise money for them, cigarsforwarriors.net on it's got their logo on the handle. And then we also send out to the Cigars for Warriors headquartered down in Florida. We send about 500 to 1,000 every 3 to 4 months, and then they break it down and ship the spills out with the cigars and the cutters and the other things. Well, one of the things that goes on in that effort is postage. There's a postage cost for them to ship all this stuff out, and they get cash donations on occasion from folks. They get tons of free stuff from cigar makers, manufacturers such as myself, but one of the things they needed was money for postage, and I said, hey, how about we start making some of these? And I'm holding up just for an example here. Fred Rui at Nomad jumped right on board when he heard what we were doing, and this is a cigar maker placard. It's the same Russian birch. We stain it with deep mahogany, and we've been fortunate enough to have, I think now, a dozen cigar makers give us their logo in a nice high-resolution format, and basically go in there and make these placards. We sell them for $30 a piece, and the money goes to Cigars for Warriors because, again, they get a lot of stuff. They're all volunteers. They're breaking it down, they're repackaging and sending them overseas. Selling the cigar maker placards is just a great fundraiser. I think Cats Fest is going on in Austin, Texas this weekend. There's going to be another fundraising event down there during that. But the cigar maker placards was a simple, easy idea. And it's taken off. We've got about a dozen or so more. Every time I'm at an event or I see somebody, I just walk up to them, tell them what it's about, and see if they're interested in participating. We've got a lot of boutique guys in there, a lot of mid-sized folks, and a lot of relatively small cigar makers as well. But I'm just as willing to approach, the Rocky Patels, the Alec Bradleys, the Padrones, the big companies as well. But again, everybody's a little leery about your brand and what you're doing. And one of the best advice I got from Rocky, I think it was Rocky Patel when I saw him at the show, and he just saw my prototype. He's like, well, if you stay around in this business for more than a year or two, folks will take you a little more seriously because you're not a flash in the pan. You're not just trying to make this thing and see if it takes off real well, and we're going to see what your commitment is to it. And then Jose Blanco, who I think is coming out with his cigar this month, Sonorial, I think that's right, gave me some great advice too. It's just be committed. Be involved, engage the community, whether it's, broadcast, podcast, radios, the websites, engage the folks so you can get an idea of what they like and what they're all about. And, find a charity, give something back to it. And Cigars for Warriors, I think, is a great charity, and making the placards has been awesome. We make them, sell them, and each one is numbered. So if you want the first one of the first one of Fred Nomads, you can't. Someone's already got it. It's Fred. Every cigar maker gets the first one we ever make, and then we number each one of them 2, 3, 4, 5. You get the idea as we send them out. So it's been hugely rewarding to raise some money for them, and also again a lot of our cigar makers when we sell their spills, I'm willing to say, hey, Fred Rui, Nomad, I'll pay you a licensing fee or something. He's like, no, don't worry about it. Give it to charity. So I take a percentage of his sales, and we put that into Cigars for Warriors as well.
Now, Tom,
so
did you have a background in woodworking?
I guess I wouldn't say I make fine woodworking at all. I spent 10, 12 years. I worked for Macromedia, then I worked for Adobe, then I worked for an Adobe partner. So I had a big background in software and printing and pre-press and design. And I always enjoyed woodworking. My grandfather in Michigan did a number of things, and I can make nice stuff. For me, what I think is nice, I would call it nice outdoor furniture. If you're going to make an Adirondack chair, I could do that. Could I make a really nice cabinet? Could I make a humidor? No, because I look at folks out there, like I have an Avalo humidor, and they're out of Nashville, Waxing Moon, Griffin. I look at those guys, or Griffin, I always get that word wrong. I look at guys making these great bread box size desktop humidors, and I'm like, wow, could I do that? And I go, no, I couldn't. I just couldn't. I have all the tools. I just don't think it would be that nice, and maybe I'm underestimating that. But when I thought about the spill idea and the potential there, I was like, all right, I've got all these tools. I just need to put them together in a way that I can crank out these spills. I have to have a consistent quality, and again, personalize them, do something different. And that's why a lot of folks ask me in a spill box, I always say there's like 50 to 60. Well, why isn't there an exact number? Well, our manufacturing process gives us one set number, but I'm a real quality control nut. And if something's wrong, like on the handle or on the circle where you light it, if it's bent or the wood has a weird little imperfection in it, I throw it away. But you're always going to get at least 50, generally 60 or more in one spill box you're buying at a retailer. I enjoy woodworking. I can make stuff, but would I make something nice enough that you'd want to pay me for when it comes to furniture or, work around your house or something? No, probably not. Yeah. But I can make spills. I'm really good at making spills and spill boxes.
More of a hobby.
One of the things, I can sneak this out now, when we first came into this industry, and again, we're like the smallest little accessory thing out there. I have a lot of respect for the guys, I think it's St. Louis at Cigar, and all the other guys out there making accessories and such. When we first came into it, we took a box, and we sent a box out to the headquarters of every cigar maker in North America, and then I think we sent one over to, who was it? They bought Commonwealth, Altus. I sent one to them in Europe, just to say, hey, introduce ourselves, be aware of what's going on out there. So we sent all these boxes out, and within 2 weeks of that promotion, just kind of introducing ourselves, I had 6 to 8 guys call me up and go, hey, do you make cigar boxes? We like your box design. It's simple, it's straightforward. And I was like, no. And I put it off for a number of years. I don't really want to make cigar boxes, but I appreciate the compliment. But I started looking into it. We're going to show off, and I don't know if we're going to sell them, but we're going to show off at IPCPR a new box design that we've created. And I know you guys are probably thinking, okay, great, it's a box. It's got sides and a top and a bottom, right? Big deal. Well, this box that we're going to put out there, and we're just going to test the water. I haven't seen any cigar maker using a box like this one. It's got a unique shape. It's got a cool design. I don't know if it's going to catch on, but we're going to have it out there. We worked with Clint Aaron at 262 to make just a simple little one-off box. I think we made a dozen or so of standard square boxes, simple, dado cuts on them, for a cigar event. Real nice. He liked them. I thought, okay, that's great. And then I started goofing around with this other design idea because I go to a lot of sushi shops and I see the things they used to roll up sushi. And I was like, wow, that's kind of cool. Can I do that in a box form? So I think you guys might maybe see where I'm going. It's got a kind of a, I want to call it a slinky, but it's got kind of a springy, it's got a different look to it. And I don't want to become a box maker. We like to make spills and placards and other things, but we are going to have at IPCPR this year 2 or 3 different boxes, maybe usable for sampler packs, maybe for something else that we're going to show. And I think it's just nice. It's different. I could see a couple of different uses for it, from sample packs all the way up to, if Lido and Gomez at LFD makes another digger, some obscene one, we could make a box that would be really different and unique that he could package that in. So we're going to do that at IPCPR and just see what happens. The spills have been doing wonderful. I couldn't have imagined when we started this 3-4 years ago that in addition to spills and spill boxes, we'd be selling placards as well, and a couple of other different products at our shop.cedarspills website. It's been a lot of fun. I'm
So
just,
Tom,
thrilled to be there.
What cigars you like to smoke?
Oh, okay. Well, some of my personal favorites of late, and they always go back and forth. One of my all-time favorites is XTC Terrazona, Eddie Terrazona, holding that up. I don't know if that's any value to it. He's had these out for a couple of years now. I think he's got Gorilla coming out this year, 305. Eddie Terrazona makes an awesome stick. The XTC stick was what I was fortunate enough to go to the Super Bowl this year in MetLife Stadium, and I can 100% guarantee and reaffirm to you and all the listeners, you can't smoke in MetLife Stadium. But you can walk around with an unlit cigar and chew it for 4 quarters and watch the Denver Broncos go down in a painful 30-plus defeat. But yeah, that Eddie Terrazona stick has been one of my favorites. I mentioned the 1502 Ruby. That's also one of my favorites. Sam Lucia, El Luchador. Luchador's just come out. I'm loving that. It's got a little, I don't want to call it a spicy note, but the Mexican wrapper is definitely bringing something out to my palate. I love the Wild Bunch series from Eddie Ortega. I haven't been a fan of every one of them, but the Birdman here has been one of my favorites. I've had all but 2 of them, and I'm trying to track the other 2 down to see if I can grab a hold of them. And one of my all-time flavor favorites is probably the original Grimalkin from the House of Emilio, Gary Griffith. The Grimalkin, I think he calls it Lamusa now.
Yeah.
Yeah, the original Grimalkin, it just has something in the flavor profile that just pops to my taste buds and my palate, and I love that. I just finished the box I had. This weekend I'm going to go up to, I think I'll be in the Pittsburgh area. I'm going to look around there for one. I know I can call up to Delaware to Gary, and I'm sure he's got some I can grab. But I'm always looking, that's one of the things I say. I admire Coop, William there a whole lot, because just by what he does, he gets to review cigars. He's prolific, he's straightforward, he's honest, and he's consistent in trying all sorts of different and new cigars. Because I think a lot of guys, myself included, I like to get a review. I like to have a little bit of an expectation set and even know, hey, is that thing even close to what I like in my regular smoking routine? Is it something I want to add to my regular rotation, if you will, of cigars? And then I was up in Toronto this past weekend, and yeah, you can buy Cubans up in Toronto, but I did not buy a Cuban cigar because I wouldn't have wanted to bring those into the U.S. like they don't, but people do all the time. But I did find a really great little cigar maker in downtown Toronto. He actually uses Cuban leaf and makes some great cigars, custom stuff. On demand, as people call in, place orders around the city or around Canada, I imagine. They make them and roll them. I smoked one of them. I've got one here. I'm going to save it for Coop. Next time when I see him in Vegas, I'm going to hand it to him and give him the card of the cigar maker, see what he thinks of it. Those are some of my favorites. Boutiques. I mean, Rocky Patel's Old World Reserve. I've got about 3 left in a box that's probably 12 years old.
The old ones, not the new ones.
Yeah, the old ones.
We've talked about those on the show a lot.
Yeah, there's a big change, and who knows why exactly. I mean, and well, I will say one thing. Fred Rui told me because I asked him, I'm like, how is it that right now we're in this cigar renaissance where there's so many boutique cigar makers, or let's say small to mid-sized cigar makers, making really great flavorful smokes, hopefully lit with a spill, but however. And he's like, really? Think about it. There's tobacco out there that you can't get enough of to make 1 million cigars. The Monte Cristos, the Padrones, the Alec Bradleys, those guys, they're not going to touch that tobacco because they can't make enough sticks. A guy like me, Nomad Cigar Companies and other ones, they can find that, they can blend it with something, and they can make some really flavorful sticks. And I was like, oh, okay, that makes total sense. These guys, the farmers, cigar brokers and such with tobacco, they've got tobacco that's been sitting around that they want to use. It's great tobacco. Fred can make 100,000, 200,000, 250,000 cigars, and that's fine for his model. And I think any of us who are cigar smokers, even the guys smoking pipes, we're in a real good renaissance era of great cigars being made out there for smoking. It's just a great time, and I do hope folks will check out our website or come across some spills at a retailer and give them a try. It's just a nice, soft, easy way to light some tasty smokes. What are you guys smoking tonight, and how's it going?
Yeah,
so
we're
far?
smoking the Quesada 40th Corona, which is an event-only cigar right now.
Nice. And that's one thing I noticed a lot of times at every year at the IPCPR, that's the big industry trade show. It's in Vegas this year. Every cigar maker, they always, if they don't have a new line out just yet, there's another one coming. It's a different blend, it's a different size. The thing I noticed last year at the show was everybody gave away like petite Coronas, really tiny cigars, which makes sense. You got a lot of people asking for freebies, or you had these huge, like Roma Craft. He gave away these. They were like the femur. I mean, they were just huge cigars, obscene ring gauges, 8 or more inches in length. Now I see a lot of Lanceros coming out, and I don't know if it's because of the amount of tobacco. It's just the up and down of the industry and the customer base asking for something different. But I like Lanceros. I tend to like Coronas, Torpedoes, more kind of a mid-size range cigar myself. But again, it doesn't matter. There's just so many great cigars out there.
Tom, are you ready to play 5 questions with the Stogie Geeks?
Sure.
Are you sure?
Well, are they 5 good questions or just 5 questions?
You tell me after we're done. 3 words to describe yourself.
Passionate, pragmatic, patient.
If you were a serial killer, what would be your weapon of choice?
I guess a hug, like a bear hug. I guess you'd have to hug somebody really powerfully, I guess.
That's a good one.
If you wrote a book about yourself, what would the title be?
The unauthorized autobiography of a madman.
In the popular game of Ask Grabby Grabby, do you prefer to go first or second?
Wow, I played that. I don't really. I don't remember having a choice. I think I went second. I guess. I think I went second.
If you could have 2 parents that were celebrities, who would they be?
Alive or dead?
Doesn't matter.
Marilyn Monroe. Oh, this is tough. Can I have 2 dads, like one?
Yeah, you can have 2 dads.
Okay. Mark Twain and Hugh Hefner.
Nice. Hugh Hefner was someone else's dad. That's the second time Hugh Hefner's come up. Excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I love Mark Twain because he was a prolific cigar guy. Back in the day, he was a prolific bourbon guy. I'm here up in Kentucky, where we do actually make a few cigars here in Kentucky still, mostly making cigarette tobacco. But the Commonwealth here, which is part of our company named Commonwealth Cedar Spills, reflects a little bit of our tobacco heritage. But Mark Twain was a huge drinker of Old Crow bourbon, which is still around. I'm sure it's a little different today than back then. But Mark Twain, love his stuff, love reading his stuff. And the same way with Hugh Hefner. I love reading his stuff. They've got great articles.
I read it for the pictures, too. Tom, where in Louisville are you?
In Louisville, a couple years ago, the city and the county merged together. Oh, sorry, that's my phone going off. Some kind of weather alert here in the area.
Yeah,
Sorry
I heard there's
about that.
storms rolling through your area.
So in Louisville, Kentucky, the city and the county merged together to form a metro area, and we're on the outer edge of Jefferson County. Fortunate enough, I get to work out of my home workshop, which is good and bad. I don't know if anybody else out there has ever been kind of a remote employee or worked out of your
Yeah, I
home
do.
and your
I work
workshop
from-
area that you put
yeah.
on there. Having the kitchen there all the time, something you got to fight off, and having a humidor at home.
Yeah.
It's another thing I got to fight off because I like to keep it stocked, but I also like to smoke through stuff. So I love going to some of my retailers. I always try to buy local. I mean, guys, folks listening into this, you buy cigars where you will, but I think supporting your local tobacconist, keeps the money in the economy locally, keeps their business up and rolling. And in Louisville, Kentucky, my spills are in several different shops, and we've got 5 or 6 really good local tobacco stores here in Louisville and one right across the river in
Tom,
Indiana.
when I come down to Louisville, I go to Louisville every year, actually.
Oh.
I'll be there at the end of September this year.
Is it
So-
like a work release thing or just
Yeah,
mandatory?
pretty much. I'll be down there for one of the East Coast's largest computer security conferences. So I'm definitely gonna look you up because I would definitely want to hook up, and I want to visit some of the shops in Louisville. So.
No, absolutely. Love to take you around to our cigar shops. We've got a couple of them. If I can, mention a few of them. Riverside Cigar Shop is great. It's just across the river in Lower Indiana, where the smoking laws are a little better. Jay Shepherd's, Oxmoor Smoke Shop. We have these stores called the Liquor Barn, which is your one-stop debauchery center. It's just got everything you need for a great party, including cigars. Excellent humidors there. But because the smoking laws are what they are here, and they're, I kind of see it the same way in New York and other states and cities. We even had to form a private cigar club here in Louisville, Kentucky, the Louisville Cigar Society, simply so we could smoke indoors year round.
Right.
So we got about 20 guys and just formed a private club, and I see that a lot more often in cities around the country as I travel, whether they own a cigar shop or a bar, sell cigars or not, just having a private club, because I'm not going to call them smoke Nazis. I'm presuming people have the best of intentions, but cigars, it's a natural product. It's a great product. There's no chemical additives, not nearly as bad as those other things people smoke, and I'm talking about e-cigarettes as well as the other kind. If you can make a cigar lounge, a cigar shop work, more power to you, because I think it's just kind of going that way, and we see them in big cities and small cities and towns across the country. I even see mobile cigar lounges. Food trucks were a big thing and still are. I think mobile cigar lounges are going to be coming around too.
Awesome. Tom, thank you very much for appearing on the Stogie Geek Show.
Hey, absolutely. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Tom.
Thanks,
Thank you,
everybody.
Tom.
Yeah, thanks, Coop. I also want to say, Coop, thanks to you for forming the group, the Cigar Media Association. I know you guys are all participants in that. When I came into the industry and joined IPCPR, there's a lot of different levels of media and access that they do and don't allow at the trade show and in other events and such. And I think having a group like that shows a lot of integrity on your part, passion and devotion to the industry, but as well it serves as a really good platform to get out there and do honest assessments and keep people, whether it's the magazines, the folks that are doing smaller blogs, up to the international media as well, honest about the cigar industry, the good, the bad, the otherwise. And I think that's probably a big part of Coop sitting there going, there's got to be a better way.
Yeah, I mean, we all put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, and we want to, it's important we get taken seriously, for that. So I appreciate the kind words, and there's a lot of good media groups that have really stepped up on that as well. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, Tom, thanks so much.
Yep.
Thank you.
Good
With
night.
that, we're going to take a short break, come back, and go through our Stogies of the Week. So stay tuned.
What's up, dude?